Good afternoon, this is Mr. Marlowe again. We're going to try to do a brief video on inverse operations. They are the building blocks for solving equations, and we'll do a future video on solving equations. But first, let's just do the inverse operations. And inverse suggests opposite or reverse. So you may be able to figure out that addition and subtraction are inverse operations. Multiplication and division are inverse operations. But let's see, how does that work? How does that affect? If I start with, like, say 6, and then I add 4 to that, I get 10. And if I turn right around and subtract 4, well, logically, it takes me right back to 6 because I've moved 4 away from 6, and if I come back 4, I'm going to land at 6. Basically, plus 4 minus 4, the inverse operations cancel themselves out. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you subtract first and then add. Think about it. Let's do like 7 minus 3. Well, that gets me to 4. If I turn right around and add 3, the inverse of subtracting 3, I get right back to 7. Which again, if you think about it, it makes sense. If you back up 3 from 7 on the number line, and then you go 3 forward, you get back to 7. Once again, these inverse operations have canceled themselves out. It is important to note that it's an inverse operation when you're using the same number. Subtract 3, plus 3, plus 4, minus 4. Okay, that's important. Okay, so what about multiplication and division? Well, if I start at 5 and I say 5 times 6, well, that gives me 30. If I then divide by 6, 30 divided by 6, I'm right back at 5. Okay, harder to picture on the number line, but if you just do the math in your head, you're okay. 5 times 6, 30. 30 divided by 6, 5. Once again, I've got inverse operations. Multiply, divide, same number. It cancels out. And I'm left with 5. Once again, if I divide first and then multiply, 4 divided by 2, 2 times 2 is 4. And once again, inverse operations with the same number canceled out. And you may be thinking, so what? Okay, that's obvious. Well, the beautiful thing is it works is if the number I start with is a variable. Suppose I have x plus 5. Well, if I turn right around and subtract 5, where do I wind up? Right there at x. Because once again, we've shown it here. So it's going to work if I start with an unknown location. And I wind up back at x because the inverse operations cancel. And again, it doesn't matter if I do x minus 5 and then add the 5. They still cancel themselves out and I'm back at x. All right? What if I'm multiplying a variable by, say, 5? Okay? If I divide by 5, all right, inverse operations cancel, and I'm left with the variable I started with. All right? If I've got a variable like c, and I'm dividing by 3, the inverse of that is to multiply by 3. They cancel, and I'm left with my variable. Now you can take that at face value, or we could go back up here and look at this. Okay, remember, I can do this in the order I want. 5 minus 5 is 0. Adding or subtracting 0 to x, to any number, isn't going to change it. Same thing here. Minus 5 plus 5 is 0. Okay? X minus or x plus 0, still x. So the inverse canceled as long as it's the same. And here, we've got 5 divided by 5, that's 1. And 1 times y, or y divided by 1, it doesn't matter, it's y. Okay, down here, we were originally dividing by 3. When we multiplied by 3, we wound up with 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 1 times c is c. Or c divided by 1, however you want to look at it. It's still c. So when we have a variable involved, inverse operations, as long as they're with the same number, cancel out, and you're left with just the variable. And that's going to be really important because that is how we're going to approach solving equations, because we're going to try to set it up so that wind up with the variable all by itself. But that's for another video. Just remember right now that inverse operations, adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, they cancel each other out as long as you're using the same number for each operation. Plus 5 is canceled by minus 5, and vice versa. Negative 6 times canceled by dividing by negative 6. Inverse operations cancel, and we're going to be using that to solve equations. Thank you for watching.